Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video will be the first of a series on common literary devices. I'll take you through a brief explanation of each one, and we'll also have a look at some real examples in literature so we can see what effect they have on the reader. At the end, there will be a quick test so you can be sure you've understood it correctly. Before we get ahead of ourselves though, the term literary devices might sound unfamiliar to you. So what are they exactly? Essentially, they are techniques used by writers to convey the message or theme of their text. They might also draw attention to important concepts or ideas, and help us readers to form a connection with the plot and the characters. There are many different types of literary devices, and it may take time to discover them in what you're reading, but if you can learn to recognize just a few, it will really help you in your exams and essay writing, and also just give you a better understanding of the piece of literature. So, the first literary device that we're going to study is alliteration. Alliteration is very common, not only in literature, but in popular culture, music, advertising, and more. Alliteration happens when words grouped close together begin with the same sound, usually a consonant sound. A consonant is a letter of the alphabet that is not a vowel. So for instance, the phrase, deep dark den, repeats the d sound at the beginning of each word. It's important to mention that alliteration is about the consonant sound rather than the actual letter. So for example, the kinda cute koala still has an alliterative effect with the mutual k sound, even though the letters are different, whereas the words coffee and choice are not alliterative, even though they both start with a C. The words also don't have to be immediately next to each other. If there is a break in between them, for instance, the wild and fearsome wind whipped through the woods, the words beginning with w are close enough together that the effect is still there. But what is the purpose of alliteration? You might have guessed, but more than anything, using the same consonant sounds is just catchy and helps us to pay attention. Our ears naturally perk up when we hear alliteration because it's nice to listen to. And that is why many writers use it to make phrases and names more memorable, because when something is memorable, it's easier for the reader or the audience to connect to. For this reason, a lot of big-name brands use alliteration for advertising or for their product names. There are loads of examples, but to use just a few, think about Coca-Cola, Monster Munch, TikTok, and PayPal. Some of the most famous comic book characters also have alliterative names like Lois Lane, Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Pepper Potts, and so on. Just like with brands, alliteration helps us to form a connection with a person or product because it sticks around in our brains for a longer period of time. If you found this video helpful so far, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. It really helps out the channel. Besides the fact that it's pleasant to listen to, the repetition of sounds is rhythmical, which is why it's often found in poetry. But in both poetry and prose, alliteration can be used to set the pace for a line of text, either speeding it up or slowing it down, depending on what the consonant sound is and how quickly it's repeated. Tongue twisters are brilliant examples of this. For instance, Betty bought a bit of butter, or Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. We naturally say these lines quickly because the hard b or p sounds in close succession drive the pace of the line forward. However, tongue twisters also highlight the consequences of overuse of alliteration. Our brains can get confused if there's too much of it, which is why they're so difficult to say. Alliteration can also be used to create a mood within the text, and the type of mood depends on what the consonant sound is. We could go into a lot of detail on this subject, and I will do a video dedicated to it in the future. But to be brief, the hard, abrupt consonant sounds like b, p, t, k, and so on, often have the effect of arousing feelings of intensity, anger, violence, or surprise, while softer sounds such as f, s, and th, for example, might evoke softer emotions like melancholy, sleepiness, or romance. So now that we understand the basics of alliteration, let's have a look at some examples of alliteration in literature. There are a few pairs of alliterative words which I've highlighted for you: boundless and bare, lone and level, and even sans and stretch. While they do help to drive the pace and rhythm of the lines, The alliteration in this example highlights the emptiness and vastness of the desert surrounding the wreck. Let's have a look at another one, from prose this time. In this extract from the first chapter of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, there are a lot of repeated duh sounds, and if you notice, they are all descriptive words. The alliteration reinforces to the reader what an unpleasant man Mr. Hyde is, and helps us to take special note of his character from this first impression, as it will be important later on. If you're feeling comfortable with what we've learned so far, let's do a quick test to see if you can spot the alliteration in an extract from the prologue of Romeo and Juliet. Here's a hint, there's more than one alliterative sound to find. Be sure to pause the video so you have enough time to figure it out. Ready? Okay, let's check the answers to see if you got it right. I've highlighted all the alliterative words in the test: from, forth, fatal, and foes, and loins, lovers, life. But what's the meaning behind this alliteration? Shakespeare is drawing attention to these two lines of verse because they encapsulate the entire plot of the play. Another interesting thing to note is that most of the f words are associated with death, while the l words are associated with life and birth. These opposing themes are linked together through alliteration, so that the audience has a clear understanding of what is about to unfold right at the beginning. So now that you've learned all about alliteration, have a go at finding your own examples in literature and see if you can figure out what effect it might have on the reader. For more study help, check out my other videos linked below. Thanks for watching, guys! I hope you learned something from this video. Stay tuned for more content soon to come. See you next time!